The Dallas Cowboys are going to be 5.5-point favorites in this game, and it's kind of a lower scoring game, 45.1 or so. Kind of interesting line there, I would say, given the fact that's a short week. Dallas is coming off of really a sloppy game. They really haven't looked all too good really this season. Couple of good plays here and there. Defense hasn't been complete trash, but Dak really has just been a little bit too inconsistent. Whereas on the flip side, Daniel Jones has been really extremely consistent. Now, Daniel Jones is not a great quarterback, but he has done enough to be serviceable, especially in terms of like maybe fantasy football players that we would want to be looking at. So definitely an interesting dynamic here looking at this game. In terms of an injury report, Jake Ferguson was back, good to go. So that's really the biggest takeaway for the Dallas Cowboys in terms of injuries that we'd be looking at. We look at the odds that are being pulled in for this game. Basically, everyone across the board is thinking the same things here. And so we'll go ahead and pull up the Giants injury report. Another team that pretty healthy. Darius Slayton is someone that, potentially could open up some value if he were to sit. I don't think we're expecting him to sit. And so with that, let's just jump into some snap counts for these two teams. Really for the Dallas Cowboys, I want to concentrate really on week 3 there. Rico Dowdle has been consistently playing around 45% of the snaps that he is currently averaging right now. Hunter Lupke, who's like the fullback / tight end, he was someone that was the tight end or playing as a tight end during the preseason. He's actually looked pretty good. Like he's someone that DFS wise we're probably looking at a little bit. Deuce Vaughn is really not playing that much, maybe a few passing situations. And then Zeke only played 20% of the snaps last week. I don't know. It's just like the offense looks different with Zeke. It's almost like they are going out of their way to get Zeke the football instead of it just kind of naturally happening throughout the game. I don't know. I never like the way the offense looks with Zeke. It's not like Zeke looks bad. It's just, it feels like maybe Dak, I don't know what it is. It just looks a little off when Zeke's in there. So I think they sense that, and we're going to continue to see a little bit more of Rico in there as well. Now, if they are 5.5-point favorites like we saw, maybe that's not the case. Maybe Zeke does kind of ground and pound his way into a bigger game. I do want to call it the receiver snaps here for the Dallas Cowboys. Jalen Tolbert has been one of those players that to me has been one of the biggest film room standouts. Okay, he has really been popping to an extent where I'm thinking about picking him up in a bunch of waiver wires. He's been playing a lot of snaps, 67%, 86%, and 75%. That being said, Jalen Brooks has kind of looked okay at times, and Turpin is a player that the Dallas Cowboys really like as well. So I do think we're going to try to get to one of these players as a value. Cooks is Cooks. Still, he'll have some big plays, and CeeDee Lamb is coming in off of a poor game. Let's talk about the Giants snap counts as well. Looking at the running back splits, Devin Singletary firmly the top running back there. To me, in today's NFL, I kind of consider a workhorse running back someone that is playing around 70% of the snaps or more. Obviously, if you're playing 90%, you're clearly a workhorse running back, but getting the uses that we would want out of him. Now, Tyrone Tracy, getting a little bit more work, got a little bit more work last week, but both of them have looked good. It's kind of like if you guys watch maybe the Bengals on Monday Night Football, you saw Chase Brown clearly look good, and you're like, wait, why isn't that guy getting any carries? And then Zach Moss just busted off a few really awesome plays as well. And you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense then. That's basically what's going on here with the Giants, where Devin Singletary has looked good. He's been doing his job well. Tyrone Tracy has always looked good. So kind of just an interesting split there. And I do want to call out Devin Singletary could have had another touchdown. He went down at the end of the game there. Smart play, but also we'll see if that hurts his ownership at all. Theo Johnson's still playing a lot, not doing a lot with those snaps. Then receiver-wise as well, guys, we're probably just looking at 2 receivers, Malik Neighbors, Wendell Robinson. Now, if Darius Slayton, for whatever reason, is ruled out, we're probably looking at Jalen Hyatt a little bit. So that does it for the game preview portion of this video. Let's go ahead and get into the top plays and kind of roster construction that we're going to be looking at here. I will say just right off the bat, I am really surprised at the pricing for Jake Ferguson. Sure, he is coming in off of an awesome game last week where he had 11 receptions, 15.5 fantasy points, was fine in week 1, I guess. But he was coming in off of an injury last week. This is going to be a short week for them as well. I expect him to be good to go and everything, but I think the biggest reason as to why he had a good game was the fact that CeeDee Lamb did not have a big game. Okay, CeeDee Lamb, 7 targets. It's funny. A bad game for him is 7 targets, 4 receptions, 67 yards, right? But he wasn't targeted that heavily. They were spreading out a little bit. Jake Ferguson did look good. I just worry that that's a little bit too high of a price tag there for me to want to pay up for Jake Ferguson. I might just be splitting and saying I want one Bills with CeeDee Lamb, Bills with Jake Ferguson. I kind of think that's the route I'm going to be going. Obviously, if we're looking at a Dallas Cowboys running back, we are going to be going with Rico Dowdle. I really like that price tag there. But in terms of like who we could be going out of our way to target in terms of a captain, I think it's Jalen Tolbert. Again, looked really good last week. Looked really good 2 weeks ago as well. 9 targets, 5 targets. We want those targets to be a little bit higher. And sure, like the touchdown is definitely an outlier. We can't bank on that. And if you take away that touchdown, it's really not a great game. But he's looked good, guys. It's as simple as that. So I kind of like the idea of chasing the upside of him potentially in the captain spot. I think that's a good value captain spot pick to be able to afford to fit in all the other studs. That being said, we could kind of get away, I think, with playing Brandon Aubrey in the captain spot as well, who's a little bit cheaper. You know, typically speaking, on these NFL DFS slates, you want to have at least a kicker in your builds in the flex. I had a GPP winning lineup last Thursday, tied with 25 other people or so it wasn't a big win, but that was the takeaway. That was the exact same thing from my GPP win, what was it, 2 Monday nights ago? Had a kicker in it as well. So that is a theme that we have seen thus far this season. I think that's going to be something that continues this year or this week, and Brandon Aubrey is obviously in a perfect spot. That's kind of my worry, is that everyone's going to be on him because he's been so good, and so maybe we think about fading him, but for now, I think he's a great play. From there, I do want to call it Turpin has been someone that they have been actively getting the football. They've had design plays to him, and that's why he's priced up. I was hoping he'd be a little bit cheaper than this. No, they did a good job of pricing him to the point where we really can't play him unless we're playing him in GPPs. Like he has upside, but those snaps not playing him much. And like if we're trying to chase like that kind of random production, if you will, we would just go with the fullback / tight end here. With the, under 1,000, I think that does give us a lot of flexibility with our lineups to be able to play who we want to really in general. And then don't be surprised if like Deuce Vaughn, Luke Schumacher catch a pass or two like that. I do expect that to happen. So from there, guys, I do think we are trying to get to Dak, CeeDee Lamb, and then like I don't mind Rico, don't mind Turpin, but Aubrey is probably who we're playing as well. Let's go ahead and get into the Giants. So looking at the Giants, obviously we probably want to be going out of our way to target Malik Neighbors. Neighbors has gained a heavy target share and has looked good with that heavy target share. It's funny, everyone is hyping up Malik Neighbors, rightfully so, but at the same time, they're not really hyping up Daniel Jones, who has looked good. This is part of the reason why I like watching film. Week 1, I saw him getting trashed, watched the film. I'm like, he wasn't bad. Like I didn't really get what the hate was coming from other than people just watching the box score. Turns out that Minnesota defense is a little bit better than everyone expected. You look at those 2 INTs, they're really just situational INTs where the play wasn't there. He has to try to force something in there. Not really on him, more just lack of ability on the offense. And in that game in general, he had some clutch third down throws, some throws that were dropped. That did happen against Washington as well. Neighbors obviously had that bad drop at the end of the game, but Daniel Jones has certainly been serviceable. I think that's the best way to describe it. I kind of feel bad for Giants fans. Like you would just rather he be complete trash rather than this, all right, you're good enough here. We'll see what happens type of play that he's had. They really should be 2-1. I mean, it's kind of crazy. But don't be surprised if he has another good game. Like, I don't think I want to be playing him in DFS too much, but he does have that rushing upside. I mean, 8 carries, 5 carries, 6 carries, like you're going to get a decent floor there out of him. Obviously, you need him to score a touchdown to really hit value. I don't know if I love that. I do really love Devin Singletary this week as well. Devin Singletary is this guy that just always kind of makes the correct play, even though he doesn't have like the best ability to make all these big plays. 4 targets last week, 5 targets in week 1. Want that target share to be a little bit higher in week 2, kind of is what it is, but he's getting right around, 17 or so opportunities per game. We will take that. Like that is a nice high floor. He's been an extremely consistent fantasy producer as well. Again, probably should have had another touchdown. He's looked good. He's looked like how they would want him to look. And you look at this matchup against Dallas. Dallas has really struggled against opposing running backs. Now, Derrick Henry just feasted against them. That was a big part to it. It was more a Derrick Henry game. Baltimore's playing with the lead. Dallas couldn't get any pressure against Derrick Henry in the backfield because if you get pressure against Derrick Henry in the backfield, he goes down pretty easy. But if you give him a half a yard past the line of scrimmage, he's going to make you pay for it. And that's what happened last week. Obviously, Devin Singletary is not that type of back, but I think we want to be going out of our way to target him. I think he's a good captain's candidate as well because there is a path to him just having a massive game as well. So from there, I do think Wendell Robinson is in play. 12 targets, 8 targets. He's been getting targeted pretty heavily. He should have a nice high floor. The pricing difference between him and someone like Turpin is kind of mind-numbing. Like $800 more for Robinson, like that, looking at it that way, like that's a clear-cut great value. And he's another one of those plays where kind of given the pricing, we always want to fit the best plays that we can and possible into our builds. Given the pricing that we have, I think you could get away with playing him in the captain spot as well. So from there, are there any other plays that we want to look at? Maybe Greg Joseph. We'll see if is he healthy? That's a big thing. Who's ever the kicker for the Giants, obviously we're going to be targeting a little bit. Theo Johnson, he's playing a lot but not doing a lot with it. Jalen Hyatt could get a deep ball target. Maybe he catches it. I doubt that. Like we don't really need to worry about that. So the nice thing about the Giants offense is it's extremely concentrated. You could get away with like Tyrone Tracy. Maybe gets a little bit more work in this game. Maybe gets a couple more design targets in the passing game, like a screen or two. I could see that happening. I don't really want to chase that. So the plays that we're going to be on are pretty concentrated, which is a good thing. So I will say, like ideally, this would probably be the build that I would be running out. Like I feel pretty decent about this. At the same time, we're probably going to have to fade someone we don't want to fade. Maybe we could play like Brandon Aubrey in the captain spot. Again, I like Jalen Tolbert in the captain spot. A lot of you guys might be wincing at that. That's fine. But even if we put Tolbert in the captain spot here, that's not going to work out well. So like maybe you go Aubrey and then you could go Vaughn, Schumacher, Lumpke. Like it's all okay. So this is very much a slate in which it seems like going to be like a little bit difficult to make an optimal build for say. As you guys could tell, I wasn't able to do that. So let's go ahead and see what the lineup optimizer is spitting out to us currently. And so I'm just going to do a quick data run here just to see what it's spitting out. And so what the data sees as the most optimal build currently, Dak in the flex, CeeDee Lamb, Daniel Jones, Darius Slayton, Deuce Vaughn getting his one catch, and then Devin Singletary. That's interesting, but we look at the next best build, and that's the theme, guys. Look at all the different captains that we have. Dak, CeeDee Lamb, Daniel Jones, Devin Singletary. I think that really echoes kind of my point of the slate. It is going to be kind of a more random slate in terms of roster construction. Like we know who the top plays are. We just can't fit all the top plays into our build. So it's certainly a unique slate in that sense. I'll probably be max entering it again, just trying to get the correct combination of players. And thankfully that should be a little bit easier to do on this slate. I expect the GPP winning lineup to be a lineup in which is duped a bunch of times as well. I don't really think there's an optimal lineup we should be looking at. But that's going to be all for this video, guys. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel. If you guys want access to the NFL DFS lineup optimizer and the NFL DFS tools, as well as props tools as well, head on over to 95sports.com. Get access to that for just $10 a month. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Good luck, and as always, let's keep cashing.